Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. The universities in Upper Michigan provide educational choices for our kids. They have a major impact on the region's economy and offer cultural and entertainment opportunities for area residents. That's why it's a concern when we see a decline in student enrollment like the one experienced by Northern Michigan University. Will that trend be reversed? We'll talk about that with the person in charge. It's coming up right now.
From TV6, this is the Ryan Report. Now, here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, Fritz Erickson became Northern Michigan University's 15th president on July 1st, 2014. Immediately prior to coming here, he served as provost and vice president for academic affairs at Ferris State University in Big Rapids. He formerly was dean of the College of Professional and Graduate Studies at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay and dean and professor in the College of Education and Human Development at Eastern Washington University. While exploring the NMU presidency, he said, "Anyone knows that Michigan higher education knows that NMU is an absolute gem with a very important mission." We're pleased to have him with us this morning. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Great to be here, Don.
We'll talk about that enrollment in just a second.
Sure.
But first, there are still people, I'm sure, who kind of want to get to know you a little better. And I looked through your bio and I see that you actually kind of started out as a middle school teacher.
I did. Actually, my first degree was, my first goal in life was to be an elementary school teacher.
Really?
I wanted to teach kindergarten. But in those years, it was very unusual for a male to get those jobs. So I ended up with my very first job teaching 5th and 6th grade, and then a year later moved to the middle school.
And your parents actually were teachers.
Yeah, my mother was a first grade teacher and then a school psychologist, and my dad was a university professor.
So did you ever dream when you were starting off on this career that someday you would be the head of a university?
Most of my friends and family are still pretty amazed that I'm doing this job.
When you applied for this job, you actually had some UP experience.
I did.
You worked at Michigan Tech for a while.
Yeah, I had a wonderful 3 years at Michigan Tech. It was Michigan Tech that got me the administrative bug, if you will. I had the opportunity to go there and chair education and psychology, and had just an extraordinary experience. We loved Houghton, we loved being there, and it really sent me off onto an administrative path.
I know you like skiing, downhill skiing.
I do like skiing.
You like to play golf, and you'd still like to get some rounds in.
I'm hoping to get one more round in.
And you're a big hockey fan.
I am. And we have such great hockey at Northern and great hockey across the UP.
Right. Let's talk about that enrollment issue. You were down 423 students this year. But if you look back, I believe the university is down probably maybe over 1,000 over the last several years.
Yeah, we have seen a kind of a steady decline. And it's really a direct result of the changing demographics of not only the Upper Peninsula, not only of Michigan in general, but Wisconsin and Illinois and Minnesota and even into Indiana and Ohio. And in our region where we recruit from, we're down about 45,000 high school graduates a year, which is a significant impact on us. We still do remarkably well. We do well in terms of the same percentages of students that we had traditionally got, we're still getting. It's just that whole demographic has declined.
People just get older, or do people move out of the region?
Yeah, we saw a decline during the economic downturn. We saw people move out of the region, and as a friend of mine once said, when people leave, they have a tendency to take their children with them,
right.
And so that's had an impact on us. But the real story is what it is that we are doing to provide even more educational opportunities for even more students, because that's the key ultimately to our enrollment issue. And I think that's even more important than that. That's the key to economic growth in the Upper Peninsula.
And we'll get to some of those issues as we go along. But I do want to ask about the Upper Peninsula. For years, the UP has been a big contributor to Northern's enrollment. Is that still the case, or is that changing?
We're about 50% of our students come from the Upper Peninsula, and that has remained constant. And we still get about the same percentage of students that are going to college from the Upper Peninsula come to us. All of that has stayed remarkably consistent, and they come because of the great education they get. There's just fewer students.
All right. Let's talk about the immediate problem. You have some budget issues you have to deal with as a result of that.
Sure.
Are you working your way through that?
Yeah, we're working through a comprehensive process to make sure that we are first and foremost are able to continue offering a really high quality education. And I'd stack up an education at Northern Michigan University with any university that I've ever been affiliated with or know of. I mean, students get this amazing education because we have faculty and staff that are at Northern for two primary reasons. The direct personal connection that they have with students. Our faculty know our students by name. Our faculty engage with them on a very close level. Our faculty support them in internships and job placements and do this work. And our faculty, quite frankly, could be at any of the most prestigious institutions in the country, but they're there because of the direct personal connection, but also the quality of life that we all enjoy in the Upper Peninsula. Our faculty here because of that.
Okay, I want to talk some about what your plans are to deal not just with declining enrollment, but planning for Northern's future. We have to take a break.
Okay.
I'll be back with more on the Ryan Report in just 2 minutes. Our guest this morning is the president of Northern Michigan University, Fritz Erickson. Let's talk about what the university is doing. You know, I was thinking, in a sense, enrollment for universities is kind of like sales for a business. You know, you really have to react to it, and your choice is either to downsize or to find some way to increase the sales. And I think your goal is to increase sales, if we can put it that way.
Well, for us, it's really very much about providing the services that we need to provide to our communities. And whether that's supporting students that come to us, engaging in activities that promote economic development, whether that's providing the full range of entertainment resources that happen in the community and contributing to the quality of life, all of those things are important.
Your strategic planning talks about investing in innovation.
That's correct.
What are we looking for here?
Well, this is a transformational point in the life of the institution. And I think in the life of the Upper Peninsula, this is a time where we think that we can make really significant investments that will enhance educational opportunities through partnerships with the K-12 community, to do innovative things that will actually reduce the cost of higher education, because as you know that the cost has really become a major concern. And engaging in activities that will help us control that cost and make sure there's really good value for the dollar that's being spent with that. It's about making sure that we have the quality environment, whether it's facilities that need to be upgraded and taken care of, that serve our students and serve our community. All of these things are part of our investment strategy that we're beginning to make.
Are there trends in education that we're just catching up with, you know, around the country or around the world? I mean, we think of education as being so kind of set in its ways, but it's changing.
Yeah, I'll give you my favorite administrative answer, and that's yes and no. Universities are very traditional institutions, and that's a very good thing. The stability of an academic institution represents the quality of the education that we provide. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're offering cutting-edge academic programs that are attractive to students today and that meet community needs tomorrow. And so that combination, I think, is really important.
I use the analogy of sales, but you have to kind of deliver what the market wants. And I know you've talked about the university being more nimble.
Yes.
And adjusting programs, making programs that students need?
Well, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we have a university that's willing to try new things, to experiment, to innovate, to be willing to take risks on new academic programs and new partnerships. And you'll be seeing in the coming weeks and months a whole slew of things, whether it's the expansion. You know, we announced and launched a new cybersecurity program. You're going to see some major expansion into cybersecurity, and some incredible partnerships are being established right now to grow and develop it, because that's an area of huge need and huge demand and huge interest. So it's those kinds of things. Being able to say yes to things as we move through the innovative process will be important.
I think I heard you say it in an earlier address that Northern had initiated 7 new programs last year.
Yeah, we started 7 new programs, whether it's the cybersecurity program, whether it's a risk management program. These are all examples. We started a new program in manufacturing production for a manufacturing production technician. Really an innovative program that's designed to help people spend 16 weeks with us, do it in partnership with area manufacturers, where when students come out of that program, they'll be guaranteed an interview on a manufacturing floor. Area manufacturers are really excited about this and really looking to partner with it. It's these kinds of innovative things that we're looking to do.
And you kind of touched on this, but you do have a program where kids can go to high school and get college credit.
Yeah, we have this amazing middle college program that's done in partnership with the Marisa and with tremendous support from Lundin and the mine. They've provided scholarships that really help make this possible, and a wonderful partnership with them. But the idea is pretty simple and direct. A student, if they are willing to, quote, stay in high school for a 13th year, and during their senior year and this 13th year take classes with us, by the end of that 13th year they can come out with an associate degree in industrial maintenance or other programs that are high demand, high job placement kind of programs, and students come out debt-free with that.
You've also talked about the concept of laddering. Explain what that is.
Well, laddering is important because people at different stages of their life have different educational needs. And so take for example, our manufacturing production technician program, 16 weeks, effectively 1 semester. Those courses will ladder and be available for a student that wants to go on for, say, an associate's degree. They'll be able to use all of those credits. It won't be starting over. And they'll get an associate degree. And if they get the associate degree and where they're at in the point of their lives, if they want to continue forward, they can get a bachelor's degree and even a master's degree. You build from one program to the next, provide opportunities from one program to the next.
Kind of a continuing investment by the individual.
Well, learning is a lifelong process.
That's true.
And it's important that we have the structures that enable us to embrace that lifelong process, because for most of us, you know, I didn't know that I was going to be doing this right. job when I was coming out of high school. Right. It's a continual learning process. We need to make sure our universities make that available, affordable, and accessible.
Okay. We have to take one more break. Back with more on the Ryan Report in just a couple of minutes. Talking with Fritz Erickson, Northern Michigan University president. A lot more questions, not enough time. A couple of things, investment in facilities. That's something.
Yeah, part of the thing is we have a responsibility to our community and to our students to make sure we have world-class facilities for a world-class education. And so we've got several initiatives that we're launching into renovating. And instead of renovating old dorms, we think we're probably going to build new dorms, but do it in the form of a public-private partnership that I think will provide a financial model that still will allow us to operate it with our RAs and our RDs, and for our students, they won't know the difference, but it's really an innovative financial structure that will allow us to create really modern apartments. The other thing is we need to upgrade our university center. This is a center that supports the university in a lot of different ways, but is also heavily used by the community. Right. It's time for an upgrade.
For those who don't know, that anybody who's been to the Great Lakes rooms have been to the university
yes.
center. Couple of other interesting things. You're looking at establishing possibly a community grants office,
Yeah,
and possibly with a storefront location.
one of the things that have been very successful this past year has been Invented NMU.
Right.
And Invented NMU, the idea is really simple. If you have an idea for a product, on the back of a napkin, you can walk in the door and they will help you. They have a very refined process to move a product from back of a napkin to commercialization. But what we don't have is the ability to support the 130 plus nonprofits in our communities. And the idea is to build a grants office that will be there, so if you have a nonprofit, if you have an organization that think you can get a grant, federal grant, state grant, community grant, foundation grant, you can go in and you can get help. And seems to me that we ought to do that in the community rather than having everyone come to campus for that. So that's what we're working on.
And the university has been kind of singled out for some favorable publicity, I guess, through Invented NMU. That the governor has recognized.
Yeah, the governor has been a huge supporter of ours with this. He's been to Invented NMU. Frankly, I think when he's done with his job, he might want to come up and work for us. He likes it so much.
You're also looking at educational broadband. Tell us about this.
Yeah,
system.
this is a real exciting initiative that we have. As you know, we've had the WiMAX system that we've now been upgrading to the LTE, which is the technical terms high speed versus a little bit lower speed. And we've been so successful with this, setting up an educational access within a 30 to 40 mile range of Marquette in different communities. We've petitioned the FCC to really be able, as my friends in IT say, light up the entire UP and bring educational broadband to everybody. Anybody that's affiliated with the university, a partner with us through a school or a community, we think it's going to make a real big difference in terms of educational access. And we're partnering with our friends at Bay College, for example, so they can deliver their coursework through this. And we've figured out the way to do it at such a low cost. It costs the average student half of what you would spend on one textbook a year to be able to do this. This is a very low cost, and no one in the country is doing this. I sat with the FCC in Washington, D.C. We're waiting for their final approvals. We're urging them on. We want them to give us that so we don't have to have our tower climbers climbing in February. We'd like them up there now. But we're getting real close.
You're confident that you will get that approval?
Yeah, I'm very confident. I'll be incredibly disappointed if we don't. We've reached out to tribal communities, for example, and really ready to go to be able to flip those switches and bring the kind of high-speed access that people in large metropolitan areas are just accustomed to, that some of our communities just don't have that access with.
We have only 30 seconds left. Anything you want to say to those parents and citizens out there about Northern's future?
Well, Northern it's such an exciting time and an exciting place for us. The quality of the education, the engagement of our faculty and students. We have a student body who is so interested in supporting our community. You may have seen last Saturday, we had 1,200 of our kids show up with rakes. We had 250 community members join them, and they spread out across our community to rake leaves, paint, fix barns, do anything to help support our community. That's who our students are, and that's what makes Northern so much fun.
Well, as I said at the top, the universities have a huge impact on life up here in just so many ways, and certainly Northern's part of that. Thanks for coming in this morning and sharing with us.
Thanks very much. It's been great fun.
I'll be back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this break. And the other day I was working on a project and found myself saying, I have to get my ducks in a row. I wonder where that expression comes from. I did some checking online, and it seems no one is certain. Explanations range from the way the mother duck lines up her ducklings when they go for a walk or a swim, to carnival games that involve shooting wooden ducks on a moving conveyor, to the pins used in early bowling games. I like the mother duck one myself. We do have expressions for a lot of things we do in life. It turns out some were born here and a lot of them came from England. Some have stayed the same, while others have been slightly modified for use in the U.S. I'm sure you've heard someone described as a loose cannon. Usually refers to someone who is unpredictable or likely to cause damage. It had its origins across the pond, as they say. How about when pigs fly? It means, of course, that whatever you're discussing will never happen, like we'll have 80 degrees in January when pigs fly. It also seems to trace its lineage to England. Then there's cat got your tongue. Some say the phrase comes from the Middle Ages, when it was said that if you saw a witch, her cat would somehow steal your tongue so you couldn't report the sighting. Have you ever wondered what the expression, let's chew the fat? In other words, let's get together and have a little conversation. Doesn't seem to have that much to do with talking, but it apparently comes from sailors who would have a casual chat while chewing on salt-hardened fat. I don't think I want to chew the fat. Some expressions have changed as they move from England to America. Fall off the back of a lorry is the British expression for acquiring something that was probably stolen. The American equivalent is, did you buy that off the back of a truck? There are some British expressions that don't make it over here at all, like, he's all talk and no trousers. You can probably guess what this one means. It's someone who is all talk about doing some big important things, but doesn't actually take any action. Some politicians might come to mind. I kind of like that one, all talk and no trousers. I think that's as far as this lesson in silly sayings should go, but in closing, I want you to know that I'm happy as a clam, being a big fish in a small pond, and although sometimes I find myself between a rock and a hard place, I have no plans to go back to the drawing board. And I'm not going to pass the buck, since we need to get down to brass tacks, because what you see is what you get, and not pie in the sky. You may have sensed I was going for the Guinness Book of World Records on the most silly sayings in one sentence. Don't know if I made it or not. I'll be back in 2 minutes. About time to wrap it up for another week. I appreciate having Northern Michigan University President Fritz Erickson with us this morning. NMU has a big impact on life in Upper Michigan, and it's good to know the person in charge is developing plans to meet the challenges of today and the future. Remember, you can also catch the Ryan Report on the internet at uppermichigansource.com. Just click on the Features tab to find us. And if you have any thoughts you'd like to share, your emails are always welcome at the Ryan Report at chesstv.com. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll plan to be with us again next Sunday morning.